Hello, my name is Leslie, and I am the host of the Why Not Today podcast. This is a podcast to celebrate people who have been courageous and said, Why not today? I started the podcast in honor of my father, Patrick Kane, who often said, Why not today? I am based in Reston, Virginia, planned community outside of Washington, D.C., and thanks for joining us today. So I'm excited for my guest. It's Darian Mobley, and I know last week was Dorian, you get me totally confused. But Darian and I always talk about how we connected. So Darian was a referral from another friend of mine who was on the podcast, Mary Foley. She's like, you need to talk to my friend Darian. And she wrote a book, which she kindly sent me a copy of. And it's called Choose to Be Happy. And her company is Darian Inc. And just we had a conversation, and she's just done some cool, courageous things. And I just felt like we needed to hear her story. So, Darian, I'm excited to have you. So why don't you introduce yourself with a fun fact, and then we'll kind of get into courage and what that means to you.
Okay. I am so excited to be here, and the mutual friend that recommended us was very sweet to do that and to get us connected. I appreciate the opportunity. So I am a life and leadership coach, a speaker and trainer, and now author, which I didn't know a year ago that is where I was headed, but I'm very excited that I took the time to actually, which is probably part of courage, but took the time to actually say, is my story worth telling? Is it enough for anybody else? So Dare to Choose Happy came out in May, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today.
So, and what's a fun fact that we need to know about you?
A fun fact is that I live on the water in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, and that was absolutely a choosing happy decision. I went from 3,500 square feet to 1,800 so that I get to wake up and look at water. And it was worth it.
And I knew we needed to be friends when I heard about that and saw that, because I am a water girl through and through, and it just makes my heart happy. And I've told people, like, I could almost drive over the causeway into the beach and turn around and go home. Like, it just calms my soul so quickly. And you know what? We don't need all that space, I found.
I know. You just, if you have the space, you fill it up.
Exactly.
And when you don't have it, you don't keep it.
Kind of like a purse. The bigger the purse, the more crap you carry around.
That's absolutely true.
So, all right. So let's talk about courage. What does courage mean to you?
Courage is doing things that scare you. In the book, I call that living out loud. I don't think unless we are scared sometimes, that we're not living our best life.
Right.
So it's that fear of ending a relationship, changing a job, making a decision that's big, or saying yes to something that you are scared of. All of that is courage.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And, I love the name of your book, Dare to Choose Happy. Like, and it is a choice, and it is something we have to choose. And living out loud, and living our life. I think if anything, the last 3 years taught us is, we need to live our life. And it doesn't come naturally, and it doesn't come without fear.
Yeah.
Doing those things.
I'm sorry. I think for me, happiness was this feeling that you had on Hallmark moments like graduations and birthdays or whatever, Christmas morning. But I didn't understand that I could choose it.
Right.
That I could say what it is that makes me happy and then make sure I put that in my day.
Yeah, love that. And the title, or the subject part of the book, is Intuition, Clarity, Priority, and Truth. Get what you want with grace and ease. And I love that. And so many things, I'm not even through the book yet, and so many things it's already taught me. So let's talk about courageous things you've done. Obviously writing a book, but I think there was a path, and there was, moving to the water. There was a path of your life that's a courageous thing. So let's talk about some of the key courageous things to be able to share with our audience and give people hope and be able to say, me too.
Yeah. One of the scariest things that I ever did, and it absolutely changed my life, was walking into the head of economic development for the state of Mississippi and saying, I would like you to choose me to run tourism for the state. I was petrified. Was so sick. I couldn't even, I was just crazy, because you're afraid that they're going to laugh at you. You're afraid that they think it's outrageous and they would never consider you. And 3 weeks later, I got a call from the governor asking me to do that. Now, I had a friend that encouraged me, that gave me the kind of the place that I needed to say that I could do it, because I didn't believe I really could step up to that big a job. But 3 weeks later, the governor called and said, "Would you be my director of tourism?"
That's awesome.
And that was one of the biggest living out loud moments. And really, when I look back, what did I have to lose? That I didn't get it? But if I had never asked, they would not have considered me if I had not gone in and said, "Pick me."
Right. Well, and and I just give me an aha. I always used to do in this podcast a connection to my dad at the end, and I haven't done it in a while. But one thing my father taught me is ask. The
Just
worst
ask.
thing somebody can say is no. And I think I have a memory of being a kid and wanting to have a sleepover with your friend, and you tell us to your friend about it, and they're like, "I'm afraid to ask my parents." I'm like, "Why?" The worst thing they can say is no, and you'd be surprised at how many things that we think no way, and it can happen. I know you quoted or referenced Marie Folio in her book, Everything is Figure Outable. And it is. And I think that's how my dad lived, is like there was not a problem he could not figure out or solve. Like it's like, okay, we'll figure this out.
Yeah.
No idea how, but we'll figure it out. And doing those things that, we're afraid to, like, what's the worst that can happen? They said no, and you're no further off. And I hate this podcast has evolved a lot to women's subjects and talking about things that women tackle. And I think if you were a man, you would not have ever questioned whether you should apply.
I agree.
I figured it out. And I know my sister was looking for a job last year, and she's like, "I don't know if I'm qualified." I'm like, my brain always said, you know what? If I'm not qualified, I'll learn it. Like, I'm one of these like fighters, like, let's figure it out. I think I definitely got that from my father. Yeah. So,
there was a study done that said that men, if they have 50% of the qualifications, they'll go for a job. Right. Women want to have 90
or 125.
Yeah, they don't want to take the risk that they're not able to do it. I think in so many cases, we are the ones in our own way of having our best life.
And I think that's really the message I want to share with Why Not Today is just do the thing, ask, be bold, do it. I mean, we do these things scared. And you know what? It's not the end of the world. And like you just said, the things that we do that are the most fearful are the ones that change our lives. So let's talk about how it changed your life and what other things you've done.
Well, it changed my life in that I was in a very public, prominent position. So for me at 39 years old, it was bigger than anything I had thought of. But then 4 years later, I got asked to be the tourism director for the state of Louisiana because of my, visibility as the tourism director of Mississippi. So that would have never happened, that opportunity. And I was the tourism director through Katrina, which can't even tell you all the things you learn, and you had to go through and do that.
Sure.
But after Katrina, I think in 2006, I think a lot of people, particularly down here, started questioning, am I doing what I want to be doing? Is this it? And I was state government. There's some perks to that, but there are also politics and all kinds of other stuff. So I made the decision then to leave and to start Darien Inc. Okay. And it's called Darien Inc. because I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that I was the one doing it. And that my name was unique enough that people would remember that.
Yeah. And I think too, I think we've come back to that point. I think in my lifetime, things like Katrina, September 11th, and then
COVID.
Most recently COVID. So many people I've talked to are just like, all right, what's next? And I don't know if it's because the age I am and the people that I'm surrounded with are like the over 40 crowd hitting 50s. It's like, okay, now what? And people I think are questioning, like, okay, what do I want to do next? And this is not all.
Well, and I think for me, I had those feelings in the middle of the night, like, okay, God, is this it? Am I supposed to be doing something else? And then I would immediately shut that down because I felt guilty that I had all this stuff that the outside world would say that I was successful, but I wasn't happy.
Well, and that's the key. I mean, how many people go to work all the time and aren't happy? I heard something my niece said the other day. the Sunday scaries. I'm like, I
Yeah.
have never heard of the Sunday scaries. And it's people dreading Sunday. I mean, I love Mondays because I work for myself, but my Mondays are structured the way I want them to be.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too.
And so many people, they don't, I think I've shared on this before. There was a young girl that just graduated from college and had her first job, and she hated it. I'm like, well, get a new job. She's like, you're not supposed to like your job, because her
Oh,
parents,
wow.
all they did was work to retire. And I'm like, no, you can like your job. And that just broke my heart and gave me even more conviction to help women and help people to say, okay, let's be happy. We're
Yeah.
not promised tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, and I think through the coaching that I do now, I work with men and women, but 80% of my clients are women, and they're
Yeah.
smart and they're talented and they have big jobs, and they are also scared to death that they're going to drop a ball, or they're not enough, or they're not doing enough. So that's really what propelled me to write the book, because I thought all of those feelings were just me. And
Yeah.
then I figured out that everybody has some piece of
No,
it.
definitely not. I know when I quit my job, that was 24 years ago, people are like, "Oh, what are you going to do about insurance? Or you sure you can do this?" I'm like, you know what? I know that I can make it work. I can do it. I interviewed somebody a couple months ago who had a big corporate job and got cancer twice and sick because of the stress. And she's like, no, no more. Like, we need to choose us
Yeah.
and put us first. And I think
Yeah.
we don't, because as women especially, we put everybody else.
We have been raised that we eat last,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
We got to feed everybody. We got to make sure everybody's okay. And I think that paradigm is wrong,
Absolutely.
because
And we
you
need to
can't
fill
give
ourselves
from an
up.
empty cup.
Yeah. And, the other world I swim in and live in is as the sales director with Mary Kay. And there are times that I'm almost not mean, but fighting women to say, you deserve 1 hour, like 1 hour of pampering. I do a spa session, and it's so hard to get women to take 1 hour for themselves. I'm like, it's necessary. We need to fill our cup, because when we don't fill our cup, it's really hard to fill somebody else's.
Yeah, I do weekend retreats here in Ocean Springs, which is just a beautiful small town. And I have a lot of women. I would like to do it, but I can't take a whole weekend away from my family, or I'd like to do it, but I hate to spend that kind of money on me, and all of those things that get in the way. And then when the women come and they spend 2 days just resetting, refocusing, what matters to you, not what matters to your partner or your children or all the other people in your life. What do you really want? And that's what those retreats do. So I have people that come back every year now. They want to, oops. My picture just went out.
Oh, well, I still see you.
Okay.
So you look beautiful.
I'm good.
That's so true. We got to fill our cup. And I started several years ago. I did something with my business. I took every month I did something to escape. And then January of 2019, I started up, I called my Toes in the Sand tour. And every month I went to the beach or some water somewhere, because, as you know, when you work for yourself, it starts hard to stop. We don't have like a hard stop. I had a friend the other day who works in the school system, and she said the other night, her and her daughter were like at 5 o'clock, like, what are we going to do for the next 5 hours? I have never, ever had that thought in my life.
No. I love that. I love the Toes in the Sand tour.
Yeah. So I started doing that, and of course COVID happened, and then I was able to kind of pivot, travel more. But I found that I need to get away and fill my cup. Just getting in the car and making a few phone calls or listening to a podcast or just getting quiet. Going for a walk without earbuds, and just to figure out what we want. And I know your book has lots of great exercises. I admitted that I haven't really done all of them. But I want to take time with going through the exercises in there. And I think one of the things you shared, which I wrote down, where is it? I don't think it's in front of me. But, here it is. Here's on my piece of paper I wrote down the other night when I was going to bed. It says, every morning start and says, what do I need to focus on today? What do I need today? What am I grateful for? And how do I feel today? And just resetting ourselves, because one thing I have found recently, and I know it's probably going on forever, but life is hard. There's a lot of hard stuff, and a lot of women and people I know are just suffering.
Yeah. And I'm not Pollyanna in that everybody should be happy every day. Like, I'm not into covering up uncomfortable feelings, but I do think that what you focus on expands. And when you can see a glimmer of what's working in your life, as opposed to all the things that are messed up, you see more of those little glimmers.
Yeah, and we always say, bad things happen in threes, but good things happen in thousands. So being focused on that. One of the things you shared that I read last night is your mother passed away when you were very young, and your perspective shift. You're like, okay, I can be really upset that my mother passed away at 22, or be grateful that I had 22 years with your mother.
Yeah, and I think perspective is a really huge part of happiness. Because I can say stuck, and I can tell you a sad story and make you feel sorry for me. But what have I really accomplished with that? Right. My mother passed away when I was 22, and it was sad and tragic. And there are many things that I missed out on. But at the same time, if another true statement is, I am blessed that I had her for 22 years.
Right.
And I can choose which perspective works for me.
And some people may have had their mother their whole life, and it might not have been a good thing.
Right.
We just don't know. So yeah, it's definitely perspective. So, all right. So you started your business. What was your business supposed to do? You said you didn't know. You just gave it a name.
I didn't know, but I started out doing tourism consulting because I had been in the tourism industry for about 30 years at that point. And about 4 or 5 years in, I went to school to be a coach. I went back to get a certificate, a degree in coaching. And I love it. I love the opportunity now to help women. And like I say, I do have some men just do their lives and work a little bit better.
Right.
Just somebody to talk to that is that non-judgmental, not involved in any of the people or the stories. I'm on the outside, and it's not really for me to give you advice. It's just to say, what's your next right step?
So
what do you need to do next? And I think that's really powerful for people, is to have that in their lives. I think coaching transformed what I do every day and where I live. So it was very powerful for me.
You went and worked with a coach that helped you design your life that you wanted, and then you're able to.
I did. She asked me some hard questions like, what are you good at? What lights you up? Where do you want to live? And I was doing the list. I was just doing the list today. Checking it off. And success was getting through every email and finishing your to-do list.
Yeah. And that's what kind of life.
That's not really success, right?
No, it is not. And we all start chasing success and climbing that ladder. And then you get to the top of the ladder. It's like, it's even what I want and what I enjoy.
Yeah.
Like what gives us joy, and as you said, what lights you up. And when you talk to someone and you ask them about themselves, and you can see what's giving them joy and excitement. Yeah. And I love the coaching profession, and I have been coached and have coached people through Mary Kay for years.
Yeah.
And I think a great sign of a good coach is that self-awareness. Like when I talk to someone that mentors and coaches me, and I've been able to identify and figure it out on my own. And
because if you come to me and say you want to lose 10 pounds, I can tell you all of the same thing I would say to myself. Here are all the things you need to do. But what's most important is, what do you think you need to do? And what are you committed to do?
And what are you willing to do?
Not what I think,
right.
But, and then it's an accountability piece in coaching as well, which is, did you do it?
Yeah. And I know for me, one of the things I'm not very good at is being told what to do, even for myself. I fight a calendar that somebody has. So if you were going to tell me as a coach, you have to do this, this, and this, I would go, sure, and I will not do this, this, and this. But it's my own idea that.
Then you'll do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So your business has evolved to a coaching business and retreats and a book,
speaking, and the book.
Okay, and the retreats, which sound very intriguing and interesting, but they're in the Mississippi area.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
There are. I do 2 a year down here.
Might have to come to Mississippi.
I know. I have people that fly in for it from Colorado and all over the South, all over.
Do you do anything with the book as far as?
I did a book tour.
Training.
Yeah, I've certainly done more speaking than I normally did because people were interested in the content of the book. And I did a book tour and went around and, touted my book, trying to sell a few.
One of the ideas that I want to go forward with this podcast is to have a membership group for people and invite speakers to do more of a book club and dive deeper in Q&As with speakers. So I've spoken to several authors. So I think that's definitely something we're going to add in.
That would be great.
So anything else you want to share about courageous
things? I want to give people, anybody that's listening, just a real practical thing to do. Okay. So the choosing happy is make a list of the things that make you happy. It could be your first cup of coffee. It could be sitting on your back porch. It's usually not when I was in Rome or when it's not usually not that. It's when I talk to my daughter on the phone, when my kitchen is clean, when I have a candle burning. Like, just make a list when I see my friends, and then keep it and look at it and say, okay, what of that can I do this week? I love that. On Sunday afternoon, Monday morning, you say, okay, there's my happy list. What can I add into my schedule?
I've done that not on a daily basis, but I've tried to do during the holidays, because we get so wrapped up. And a friend of mine that I had on the podcast actually wrote a book called Jingle and Joy, and it talked about we get so wrapped up in the jingle, we don't
forget the joy.
So where I live, there's like a little downtown area, which is beautiful, and they've got ice skating, all these things, but you run in and out to shop and you're quick. And so several years ago, I decided to be intentional about enjoying the holidays. And every day from December 1st to Christmas, I would do something that made me happy. So, it's go around and look at Christmas lights, or bring hot chocolate, or call a friend, or send a card. But just those small intentional things make such a difference.
I heard a psychologist say that we are guaranteed pain and suffering. And unfortunately, I think that's true. We're going to have some stuff, right?
Yeah.
We are not guaranteed happiness.
No.
We can go through this whole life and be miserable.
And a lot of people are.
And they are, or they can choose different. That's why choose, I think, is an important part of that title, is you can choose to do this differently.
Yep, and I think that's such a key word. The other thing that you talked about in the book, which is something I'm a huge proponent on and actually did a podcast episode about, is the one word. Instead of having your New Year's resolution, which is a word. And so my word this year was space. And it has lived out some ways I didn't want it to. But space. So.
Yeah, I've been doing a word of the year for about, 7 or 8 years, but my word this year is enough.
I think I saw
I am
that.
enough.
Awesome. That is great.
Enough.
Yeah, you have to listen to the episode with Charlene Wheelis, who wrote a book that said I am enough.
That's great. Yeah, I need to look
at that. So these podcasts have become my own therapy sessions, I think, and interviewing the people I want to hear about that are going to help me.
Sure.
So yeah. And I did mention, I think, to you that in January we do a painting event where we paint a canvas with our words. We'll have to have you join us.
I would love to do it. In fact, I might steal that from my retreat, because you told me about that.
Absolutely. And we did it for a Mary Kay retreat one time. We got paints and everything, and everybody did their one word, and it's so powerful. Mine's been in my bathroom, and then I write it in one of my devotionals every year, my word.
Yeah. So. There's a company that I go to called myintent.com, and you can order your word on a little bracelet.
You know what? I saw that and circled that on the book, and I think I want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, they're not expensive at all, but I really enjoy having that, because 6 months in, I'm going, what was my word? Like, I've done the stuff, but I want to be.
It wasn't a good word. I actually take it one step further. I have my word. I have my graphics person make it fun and pretty for me. And then I print it out like a photo, like a square photo, and it's all over my house. So it reminds me of it.
That's great.
So it's
good idea. Good idea.
So what would you say to encourage somebody else to be courageous?
The first step is listening to your intuition, and it's getting quiet, getting a notebook, and just doing some free writing of, what does my soul want me to know? What does my soul want me to know? And cut out the noise, and just start being aware of when you don't speak up for yourself, when you say, okay, Mexican's fine, but you don't want it. Really, or it's okay if, we go there for the holidays, but you don't want to. Like, it's time to just say, that's not what I want. It's time to ask for what you want.
Yep, I so agree. So true. So go back to what I mentioned in the middle, which I've been forgetting to do, is connections to my dad. That I think the big one was that you shared, like just ask.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing somebody can say is no.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah. And he actually was a city planner and worked with a lot of economic development groups, so a tie in there too.
We probably would have known each other somewhere back there.
Probably.
So yeah.
Well, this has been awesome, and I love your stories, and I can't wait to
Thank
finish the
you.
book. And so, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to connect with you and find you?
DarianInc.com is my website.
Okay.
The book is on Amazon and also Barnes and Noble online, and I think Walmart. But
Okay.
you can't go in Barnes and Noble and buy it, but it's online. But
Okay.
Amazon's probably the easiest if you
Well, I
want.
hate to say it. I mean, I love bookstores, and I love touching and feeling
Me
books.
too.
And our Barnes and Noble closed, and it reopened recently. And I went in there, and I found a book that I wanted and touched and felt it. It was just, I had to have it, and it was $34 and $18 on Amazon.
Yeah,
I'm
I know. I know.
It's like, okay, if it was a small bookstore, maybe I would have splurged, but I'm like, so much easier. I hate to say it, but
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm glad your
So,
book's available.
Dare to Choose Happy is the book.
Okay. Well, I'm going to finish reading it, and I'm going to encourage everybody else to. And I'll share all your contact information on show notes, because I'm sure you're on Instagram and Facebook and all those things.
I am. I'll get you all that.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you. So, and for those listening, obviously we're on Instagram. We are on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm trying to do more there. We also have a website. You can get swag as far as T-shirts or cups or vinyls, just to say why not today and encourage somebody else. I've also started inspirational posts that I can text people every day to start your day positive. So if anybody's interested in wanting to know more, let me know. So again, Darian, thank you so much. It was great to meet you and connect, and we'll definitely stay connected. So make sure anybody that watches or listens to the podcast that rate us, review us, share with your friends. So, and don't forget, say why not today.